I still remember the exact moment I realized I'd never be enough for my parents. I was 11 years old, standing in the kitchen doorway, holding a report card with straight A's. Mom was on the phone with Aunt Linda, laughing about something my brother Kyle had done, probably something mediocre that she'd wrapped in gold foil and presented like a miracle. I waited there for 7 minutes. I counted. When she finally hung up, I handed her the paper. She glanced at it. "That's nice, honey. Can you set the table? Your brother will be home soon and I'm making his favorite." That's nice. 2 words that would define the next 23 years of my life. My name is Alexis Harper, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the supporting character in my own family's story. Kyle was the protagonist, handsome, charming, athletic, and blessed with the kind of effortless confidence that made everyone want to be near him. I was the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who didn't need attention because I had it all figured out. Dad used to say it like a compliment. "We never have to worry about Alexis. She's got her head on straight." What he meant was, "We don't have to try with you." Kyle got a car for his 16th birthday, a used Mustang that Dad spent 3 weekends restoring with him. I got a gift card to Target when I turned 16. "You're so practical," Mom said. "We knew you'd appreciate something useful." When Kyle barely graduated high school, they threw him a party. When I graduated with honors and a full scholarship to state, they took me to Applebee's. Kyle was there too, of course, talking about his new job at the sporting goods store like he'd just been named CEO of Apple. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was independent, self-sufficient, above needing their validation. I was lying. I worked my way through college, waited tables on weekends, graduated with a degree in accounting, and landed a solid job at a mid-sized firm in the city. I lived in a cramped apartment with 2 roommates, saved every penny I could, meal prepped on Sundays, and didn't buy anything that wasn't on sale. For 8 years, I lived like a monk, because I had a dream. I wanted a home. Not an apartment, not a rental, a home. Something that was mine. 4 walls and a foundation that nobody could take away from me. A place where I belonged, completely and unconditionally. Last spring, I finally had enough for a down payment. The house was perfect, a 3-bedroom craftsman with a wide front porch, original hardwood floors, and a backyard big enough for a garden. It needed work, but it had good bones. The kitchen had white subway tile and a window over the sink that let in the morning light. I could picture myself there. I could picture my life there. I made an offer. It was accepted. I closed on a Tuesday in late April. I'll never forget walking through those rooms with the keys in my hand, touching the walls, standing in the center of the empty living room and just breathing. This was mine. I'd earned it. Every shift, every sacrifice, every late night had led here. I called my parents from the porch, sitting on the front steps with tears on my face. "I did it," I said. "I bought a house." There was a pause. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Mom said, but her voice was distant. "How many bedrooms?" 3. 2 bathrooms. "It's got this beautiful 3 bedrooms," she repeated. "So there's room." "Room for what?" "For family, obviously." I laughed, thinking she meant for visits. "Yeah, plenty of room for you guys to come stay when Kyle and Vanessa and the kids," she said. "They'll need at least 2 of the rooms. Maybe you can turn the 3rd into an office or something for yourself." The street went quiet around me. A bird called from the oak tree in the yard. I could hear my pulse in my ears. "I'm sorry, what?" "Well, Kyle's lease is up in August, and Vanessa's been talking about wanting a bigger place now that Bryn's starting kindergarten." "Your house is perfect. 3 bedrooms right in their school district. You're so smart to have bought there." My hands started shaking. "Mom, this is my house." "Of course it is, honey. But family takes care of family. You've always been so generous. I didn't buy this for Kyle. I bought it for me. Alexis." Her voice sharpened. "Don't be selfish. You don't need 3 bedrooms. What are you going to do with all that space? Your brother has 2 children. They need stability. They need to find their own place." Silence. "Then, we'll talk about this later. Your father and I are coming by this weekend to see it." She hung up before I could respond. I sat there on the steps of my new home, the keys cutting into my palm, and felt the ground shift beneath me. They arrived Saturday morning at 9, 30 minutes earlier than we'd agreed. Kyle pulled up right behind them in his truck because of course he did. Vanessa was in the passenger seat with her phone out, already taking pictures of the house through the window. Their kids, Bryn and Carter, tumbled out and immediately started running through the yard. I met them on the porch. I hadn't slept well all week. It's smaller than I thought, Vanessa said, eyeing the front door. Not even a hello. It's 1,400 square feet, I said evenly. It's a starter home. Starter home. Kyle laughed, throwing an arm around my shoulder. Look at my little sister, all grown up and playing house. I stepped out of his grip. Mom and Dad were already walking through the rooms. Mom with her arms crossed, Dad nodding silently like he was appraising livestock. The master's a decent size, Mom called from the hallway. Kyle and Vanessa can take this one. The kids can share the second room. Alexis, you'll be fine in the smallest one, you don't have much stuff anyway. I stood in the doorway. Nobody's taking any rooms. I live here, alone. Mom turned. Her expression was the same one she used to give me when I talked back as a kid. Alexis, we've discussed this. Your brother needs, I don't care what Kyle needs. The house went still. Kyle's smile faltered. Vanessa's head snapped up from her phone. Dad stopped mid-step in the hallway. Mom's face darkened. Excuse me, I said, I don't care. My voice was shaking, but I didn't stop. I didn't buy this house for Kyle. I bought it for me. I worked for 8 years to afford this. I ate ramen. I worked double shifts. I drove a car with a cracked windshield for 2 years because I couldn't afford to fix it. I did all of that so I could have something that was mine. Don't be dramatic, Mom snapped. Family helps family. That's how it works. Then where were you when I needed help? Where were you when I was working 60-hour weeks and could barely afford rent? Where were you when I had to choose between groceries and gas? You never asked, Dad said quietly. I laughed. It came out bitter and sharp. I shouldn't have to ask. You're my parents. Kyle stepped forward, hands up like he was calming a wild animal. Lex, come on. Don't make this a whole thing. We're family. We're just talking about living arrangements. You want to live in my house rent-free. We'd help out, Vanessa said quickly. With utilities and stuff. Utilities? Mom and Dad said. Mom and Dad don't get to decide what I do with my house. Mom's voice cut through the room like a blade. So what are you saying? You're just going to let your brother and his children struggle while you rattle around in here by yourself? Kyle has a job. Vanessa has a job. They can find their own place. Do you know how expensive rent is right now? Vanessa's voice climbed. We're barely getting by, then move somewhere cheaper. Downsize. Budget. Do what I did. We have kids, Kyle said, his voice rising. We can't just, that's not my problem. The words dropped like stones. Mom's face went white, then red. How dare you? After everything we've done for you, like what? I was yelling now. I couldn't stop. What have you ever done for me that you didn't do twice as much for Kyle? You paid for his car. You co-signed his first apartment. You gave him $5,000 when Bryn was born. What did you give me? A Target gift card and a pat on the head. We raised you. We fed you. We put a roof over your head. That's called being a parent. That's the baseline. Dad spoke up, his voice low. Alexis, you're being unfair. Unfair. I turned to him. You rebuilt a car with Kyle. You went to every single one of his baseball games. You taught him how to fish, how to change oil, how to grill. You taught me how to balance a checkbook and do my own taxes because I needed life skills. Do you know what message that sent? It told me I wasn't worth your time. It told me I was only valuable if I didn't need you. That's not, it is. And I'm done pretending it's not. Mom's voice shook. If you don't let your brother stay here, don't bother coming to family dinners anymore. Don't call. Don't visit. You'll be choosing to cut yourself off. I looked at her. Really looked at her. At the woman who used to braid my hair before school, who made me chicken soup when I was sick, who I'd tried so hard to make proud. Okay, I said softly. Then I guess I'm choosing me. The silence was deafening. Kyle stared at me like I'd slapped him. Vanessa grabbed her purse. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom stepped closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. You're going to regret this. Maybe, I said. But at least I'll regret it in my own house. They left without another word. The kids were confused, asking why we were leaving so soon. I watched them drive away from the porch. And then I sat down on the steps and cried until I couldn't breathe. But I didn't call them back. The weeks after that Saturday were the loneliest of my life. No calls, no texts, nothing. I kept checking my phone like a reflex, expecting something, an apology, an olive branch, even another argument. But there was only silence, the kind that echoes. I threw myself into the house. I painted the living room a soft cream color. I tore up the old carpet in the hallway and refinished the hardwood underneath. I planted tomatoes and herbs in the backyard, even though I didn't really know what I was doing. My hands stayed busy. It was the only way to keep my mind from spiraling. My coworker Rachel noticed I wasn't myself. Over lunch one day, she asked if I was okay. Family stuff, I said, stabbing at my salad. She nodded knowingly. Say no more. Boundaries are hard. They don't think I'm allowed to have any. Then they're learning a tough lesson. I wanted to believe her. But late at night, lying in my new bed in my new house, I felt like I'd made a terrible mistake. Maybe I was selfish. Maybe family was supposed to come first, no matter what. Maybe I was the villain in this story and I just couldn't see it. I called my friend Jenna, the one person I knew would be honest with me. Let me get this straight, she said after I explained everything. They expected you to hand over the house you saved for 8 years so your brother could live rent-free. They said it wasn't rent-free. They'd help with utilities. Utilities. She laughed, sharp and incredulous. Alexis, that's insane. You know that's insane, right? I don't know anymore. Well, I do. They're gaslighting you. You did the right thing. Hearing it out loud helped. A little. But then my uncle called. Uncle Pete was Dad's younger brother, and we'd always been close. He was the one who showed up to my college graduation, who sent me a card every birthday. When his name flashed on my phone, I answered immediately. Hey, kiddo. Hey, Uncle Pete. So I heard about the situation. My stomach dropped. Let me guess. Mom called you. Your mom, your dad, and Kyle. He sighed. They're upset, Lex. I know. They want me to talk some sense into you. I closed my eyes. And are you going to? There was a long pause. Then, no, I think you did the right thing. I almost dropped the phone. Wait, what? I said you did the right thing. Kyle's always been handed everything. And your parents. Look, I love my brother, but he's got a blind spot when it comes to his kids. He sees Kyle as the son who needs saving and you as the daughter who doesn't need anything. That's exactly what it feels like. Because that's exactly what it is. And I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. That takes guts. I started crying. I didn't mean to, but the relief was overwhelming. They're so mad at me, I whispered. They'll get over it. And if they don't, that's on them. You're not responsible for managing their disappointment. We talked for another hour. By the time we hung up, I felt lighter. Not healed, but lighter. 3 weeks later, I got a text from Kyle. Kyle, we need to talk. I stared at it for a long time before responding. Me. Okay. Kyle, can I come by? Me. When? Kyle, now. I almost said no. But something in me, some stupid, hopeful part thought maybe he was coming to apologize. He showed up 20 minutes later. Alone. No Vanessa. No kids. He stood on the porch with his hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. Nice place, he said. Thanks. We stood there in awkward silence. Finally, he sighed. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He walked through the living room slowly, taking it all in: the painted walls, the furniture I'd carefully picked out, the photos I'd hung. He stopped in front of a picture of me and Jenna at the Grand Canyon. When was this? 2 years ago. He nodded. Didn't say anything else. Finally, I couldn't take it. Kyle, why are you here? He turned. Vanessa's pregnant again. My heart sank. Congratulations, I said flatly. We're drowning, Lex. We're barely making rent as it is. I don't know how we're going to afford another kid. So you came here to ask me to ask if you've changed your mind. I laughed. I couldn't help it. You're serious. We're desperate, Kyle. I was desperate for 8 years. Nobody cared. That's not fair. It's completely fair. My voice rose. Do you have any idea what it's been like being your sister? Watching mom and dad worship the ground you walk on while I worked myself to the bone just to get a fraction of that attention. I never asked for that. You didn't have to. It was just given to you. Everything has always been given to you. And now you're here, in my house, asking me to give you more. His jaw tightened. So that's it? You're just going to turn your back on family? You turned your back on me a long time ago. You just didn't notice because it was convenient for you. He stared at me. I could see the anger in his eyes, but also something else. Confusion. Like he genuinely didn't understand. Vanessa was right, he said quietly. You've changed. Yeah, I said. I have. I finally realized I'm allowed to matter too. He left without another word. I locked the door behind him and leaned against it. Shaking. 2 months later, I got a certified letter. Mom and Dad were suing me. I sat at my kitchen table, reading the legal document with numb fingers. They were claiming I'd verbally agreed to let Kyle stay in the house, that I'd promised to help family, that I was breaching an implicit contract. It was absurd. Completely, utterly absurd. But it was also real. I called a lawyer that afternoon. Her name was Diane, and she was exactly the kind of no-nonsense woman I needed. Do they have anything in writing? She asked. No, any recorded conversations? No, then they don't have a case. This is a scare tactic. It's working. She smiled grimly. We'll file a counterclaim for harassment and legal fees. Let's show them what boundaries look like in writing. Over the next 3 months, my parents and I communicated exclusively through lawyers. Every email, every demand, every accusation was filtered through legal language. It was cold. It was clinical. It was also the healthiest our relationship had ever been. The case was dismissed. The judge called it frivolous and ordered my parents to pay my legal fees. When Diane called to tell me, I cried from relief, but I also cried from grief, because even though I'd won, I'd also lost. I'd lost the parents I always wished I'd had. The ones who'd see me, really see me, and choose me anyway. I'd lost the fantasy of a family that could change, but I'd gained something too. I'd gained myself. A year has passed since that Saturday. I'm sitting on my front porch now, drinking coffee and watching the sun come up over my yard. The tomatoes came in strong this year. The house is exactly the way I want it. Quiet, peaceful, mine. Uncle Pete comes by every few weeks. We grill in the backyard and talk about everything and nothing. He's the only family I have now, and honestly, that's enough. I heard through the grapevine that Kyle and Vanessa moved 2 hours north to live with her parents. Mom and Dad are still furious with me. I saw them once, at the grocery store. Mom looked right through me. Dad pretended he didn't see me at all. It hurt. It still hurts, but I don't regret it. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not trying to be enough for someone else. I'm not performing, not proving, not shrinking myself to make room for someone else's needs. I'm just here, in my home, living my life, and that's more than enough. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone reading this, it's this. You are not selfish for having boundaries. You are not cruel for choosing yourself. And you are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, even if that someone is family. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is let people face the consequences of taking you for granted. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away, and sometimes the quiet life you build in the aftermath is the loudest form of revenge. I chose me, and I'd do it again. Drop your city in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels.